Assalamu alaikum, hello and namaste. Welcome to another inspiring episode number 33 of the Limelight. This is Fareen here. Well, today on the hot seat, I have a lady who is a therapist for autistic children. She also works for people with development and learning disabilities. So, listeners, please welcome our guest Poornima Bhat. Welcome to the Limelight. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Fari. Thank you so much. And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, dear.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Poornima, before we get to know more about autism, I would like you to tell our listeners about your personal life.
Good afternoon, Fari, and thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Poornima Bhat. I am based in a small city called Mangalore in southern part of India. Personally speaking, I'm a mother, like everybody. I'm also a rehabilitation professional, but I also call myself as a special mother because I have a son with Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a developmental disability. It is a lifelong genetic problem. My son was born when I was 22 years, and we had to run from pillar to post for his therapy services because in the year 1990, there was not any www.google.com
Right.
or www.bing.com or anything. Basically, Fari, there was no information. All we got was encyclopedia definition. So, and there were no trained people. I just think that my experience of running behind doctors, running behind so-called therapists, we didn't leave any stone unturned. Okay, running behind them inspired me actually to try my hand at becoming a professional. So when after my daughters were born, it so happened that my husband got an opportunity to go from India to US as a visiting scientist. And when we went there, I enrolled in a university for the master's program in rehabilitation counseling, and that's how I became a rehabilitation professional. And all my professional experience was given to me in the university in USA. And after that, I have worked in 3 big organizations in New York, where I worked with, I think, almost 200 children with autism, a number of children with developmental disability, and mental retardation. I run a NGO or a non-profit organization called Arivu. Arivu means awareness in our local language. So we are trying to create awareness about the various issues. When I say issues, it could be genetic, it could be nerve related, it could be brain functional related, it could be mental retardation, or it could be academic related. Now these are some of the categories of problems that I work with, Fari, and I'm so happy that you want to create an awareness with us.
Yes, exactly, Poornima. I want parents to know about the autism and various things related to autism. And
Okay.
I should say, Poornima, I wish that God blesses you and your family with all the health and happiness in life.
Thank you.
So, Poornima, can you tell us what is autism and how will the parents be able to detect it at an early stage?
Sure, Fari. Autism is a brain disorder. It actually affects a person's ability in 4 important areas. That is, in the ability to communicate, in the ability to be social, motor skills, and also sensory. These are the 4 areas a child is going to face, not just issues, serious issues. So basically what happens for this child? The child is having difficulty in learning the language. The child is having difficulty making eye contact. The child is having difficulty in communicating with even the parents. See, because all parents wish for their baby's first smile or the first blabbering, the first ma, the first pa. That an autistic child has so much of difficulty in even achieving the milestone. Some of the milestones, like for example, sitting, standing, walking, that is not a big issue for a child, for an autistic child. The main problem comes in the area of communication. So what happens is, because the child is not able to communicate, the speech becomes delayed, the communication becomes delayed, and they are not able to pick up the social cues. Another problem is they will start having something like repetitive behavior, like for example head banging or making some strange sounds. When I say head banging, they may bang their head on the floor or the table or the wall. They may seem like they're not interested in actually even seeing someone's face. They may have a rigid pattern of thinking, like I want to sit in this place only. So I want mommy to stand only all the time. It is called obsessive compulsive behavior. They want the same plate. They want the same spoon. They want to sit in the same place and eat at the same time. Okay? So these are some of the things that a child with autism may have. It's not that everybody has the same kind of behavior. It is just that they share the same kind of behavior. Another problem is also that they have so much of difficulty in writing. Like they may not be able to hold the pen in a normal way. They may not be able to hold the spoon in a normal way. They may have a lot of difficulty in holding small things. These are called as fine motor skills. Child will not be able to hold the things like others do. So these are some issues that we see in children with autism. How the parents can decide? There is always called as a normal pattern of behavior in babies or in young children. Typically, autism can be detected between 1 and 2 years. Let's say a child who is 1 year 3 months. If the child is not able to respond to a mommy's call, if the child is not able to respond for a loud noise, or if the child is not able to respond when someone tickles the baby, or when, let's say, the child is not responding to any outside noise, that is the time to say something is a problem.
Okay, so this is how parents can check for symptoms of autism.
Yes, and another important thing is, most of these children may not respond for the hugs and the cuddles. Like if you take the child and pat, either the child will be passive or the child will just not bother about it. Usually most of the children are very physical, Many children usually like to be carried.
Okay, so tell me, what are the next levels of therapy for an autistic child?
The first and foremost, when you have a doubt, parents usually get a doubt, when you have a doubt that something is wrong with your child's behavior, something is not normal with the child's behavior, it is high time to ask your family doctor or the child's pediatrician. And then what happens is, there are a number of tests that can be conducted. They do a basic auditory testing, a hearing testing, just to make sure that the child is not having any hearing problems. Because if a child is having hearing issues, the child may not be autistic, but it can show the same kind of behavior. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? So first they have to rule out the possibility before telling the child is autistic. Then after that, what experts will do, this is usually done either by a clinical psychologist or by a psychiatrist. And it's always better to be done in a government hospital. And they sit and interview with the parents. And also what they do is they give some toys to the child. One thing about autistic child is they enjoy colors and they enjoy geometrical shapes like circles, squares, rectangles. So these are some toys that are given to the baby and see how the baby responds. And also an interview is done with the parents. The child is observed and there are some testings that can be done. Each psychologist has their own battery of questions which they ask the parents, and that is how they come to the conclusion. Another thing is, a child can have few features called autistic features. It could be 1 or 2 or 3, or it could have many features which will be assessed and set by the psychologist.
Okay.
After that, there are, depending on the need, there are 3 or 4 therapies a child has to undergo. The first thing is behavior therapy. Behavior therapy is something where a child is taught how to adapt to the society or how to adapt to the environment. Like, for example, let's say headbanging. Or headbanging is injurious to the child. Now the child may not even realize that it is injuring the head. The child may not even feel the pain. So for that, behavior therapy is something that needs to be done. Language therapy, speech and language therapy, social skills therapy. And then we have something called as sensory integration therapy, which is a big thing. Now what are these different things? Social skills therapy is kind of straightforward, right?
Yeah.
You make the child say, you have to teach child how to be in a social setting.
Yes.
Could be with grandparents, could be with even parents, could be with siblings, could be with peers. They have maximum problems with peers. They may enjoy older kids' company, they may not enjoy a peer's company. Now that could be a problem, right?
Yeah.
They may not be able to do a silent play which other children are able to do. Silent play, sitting with another child and playing together without talking but actually silently communicating. Speech and language is something where actually they have to learn the words, learn the language through which they can respond to the environment. Like for example, when they hurt or when something is hurting, rather than throwing a tantrum, they should learn to say pain. Or if they are tired, rather than creating a tantrum, they should be able to say tired.
Completely.
So this is more meaningful. And they start with pictures like apple, banana, etc. But then they have to go to the language development.
Okay.
But sensory integration is something which all autistic children need, and it's a must thing. And this is where it becomes different from other categories. So what is sensory integration? Now, as I said, this is a brain disorder. It's mainly a nerve disorder. And because of that, they have this confused senses. When I say senses, our sense of hearing, our sense of seeing, our sense of listening. These all come under the senses, right?
Right.
And when a class teacher tells something, we may be able to hear. Normal child may be able to hear. Okay, John, sit here. But an autistic child, for an autistic child, the sound may be like a few pieces of stone in a vessel.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That is how the child is going to hear it. It is like putting 3 or 4 stones in a bottle and shaking it. So the child may not be able to hear. That's because the thoughts inside their brain is jumping all over. Kind of like hyperactive brain. So for that, there are various ways of calming a child's brain. Physically and through repetitive activities. Like for example, exercise squeeze ball. Then it could be like sitting in a swing. Or it could be like using a gym ball. Or using a trampoline. Or doing some repetitive hand movements like I said, squeeze ball, putting beads. So these are involving your hands and legs and the body.
Motor skills.
Yeah, more like motor skills, fine motor and gross motor.
Okay. So once the parents come to know about these symptoms in their child, how should the parents handle their child?
See, the thing is, it is such a shock for the parents. The word autism itself is so scary. And many parents come with absolutely no knowledge as to how to handle it. Because what happens is, even though you've had another child, raising a normal child is different from raising an autistic child. The parents should have tons and tons of patience. Second thing, why the child is doing a particular behavior helps us in understanding.
So the early will be the therapy, it will be good for the child.
Yes. See, we can start as early as 1.5 and 2 years. Okay. The easier, especially the social integration part. A 3-year-old is so much easier to adapt to the social environment compared to a 6-year-old, compared to a 9-year-old. And remember one thing, the more the years go by, the more and more an autistic child goes to its own world, goes to his or her own world. Once they start going deep and deep into their own world and start doing their own behavior, it becomes difficult to bring them out of it. My suggestion is, even if someone says, let's wait for another year, or it's okay, nothing will happen, the child doesn't feel like talking now, let's wait for another year. My suggestion is, if your child is not responding between 1.5 and 2 years, it's always better to consult. Nothing wrong, right?
Right, exactly.
And if the result is negative, well and good.
Yeah.
Other thing is, they just have to be consistent with the early intervention. Now, just because a child does some progress, you just cannot leave it. Whatever the child develops the habit, it has to be a lifelong process for the child as well as the family. The family will have to do some kind of changes, lifestyle changes and adaptation.
Okay.
Believe me, there are so many families who have done that. And if there's a success story with an autistic child, the family is firmly behind the child.
Right.
Early intervention, the child can actually go to school.
The sooner the better.
Yes.
That's what we can say about this. We have the last segment where we ask your advice to our listeners.
What I want to say is, I really feel that autistic is not just pertain to a family, it's a global problem. And we as a society can do so much to help a family, to help a child who has autism. The first thing we can do is, autism is not an infectious disease. There is nothing wrong if another child plays with this child. In fact, the autistic child can pick up a lot from your child. Second thing is, when you see a child or when you see a family who has an autistic child, just make sure that you are supportive to the family. And whatever information you get about autism, please share it with others.
Yeah, that's important.
That's important. Second thing is, let's say, if you see a child is having autism, if you get the doubt, you need not be very direct with the family, but you can be very diplomatic and suggest to the family to show it to the pediatrician. You need not say that the child has autism. Just because a child is not having eye contact or a blank look doesn't mean the child is having autism. It could be, as I said, auditory problems. There could be so many other problems. So my suggestion is, whoever is hearing this, take this information forward, because we as a society can make a change when we pass on this information to others, when we are aware, when we are sensitive about the autistic children that we see around us, when we try to educate the family, when we also show empathy and not sympathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is understanding, sympathy is pity. The families will need understanding and not sympathy.
Yes, you are totally right, Poornima. And whatever you said regarding if you find a child may not be autistic, maybe development skill, maybe something like that. You can always suggest parents to check with the pediatrician, have an analysis done for their own good.
For their own good, exactly. And there is nothing wrong in doing that,
Yes. That's what awareness must be spread across, and I totally agree with you, and that's what I am trying from my podcast. I wish people learn more about it and try to have that understanding for an autistic child and the parents dealing with them. Poornima, I can never thank you enough for taking out time for this talk and sharing your knowledge with us, because this we cannot get from just anybody. Only with a person who's expertise in this subject and who has handled such children can explain what really autism is all about.
Thank you so much, Fari, and I really had a great time sharing the information. And my only hope is that whatever information I give gets trickled down and help more and more families who not just have autism but also in the future generations. Thanks so much, Fari.
You're welcome, Poornima. Listeners, if you have liked this information and the podcast, please click on the like button of the Limelyte page. And thank you for listening. Allah.